and even inverts or is inverting when this happens, it will shield us. We'll lose our shield that it normally shields us with, and certain ultraviolet frequencies will be allowed to penetrate the Earth, and certainly will cause damage to living tissue, like immediate pin-pricking pain in the skin and blisters. But secondary to that, I think we might see fires erupt, perhaps with other factors like the proton storm may attend it. It may cause shorts in power lines, which start fires. There may be something else totally kind of different coming from the sun, like a burning mass. I don't know that I've ever seen such a thing that would hit the planet. Mainly it's only smaller particles that hit, 2 or 3 days after the event. But we are watching the sun. It is acting unusually. And the Hopi have said, many times, we're going underground. We're going to build mud igloos, kivas, they call them, underneath the floor of the desert where they live, to stay there for 2 or 3 weeks while this tremendous heat passes and the fires pass. They will not be in an area themselves, they or the Navajo, where there's a great risk of burning trees or grass. It's desert. We gave them the worst land in America to live on, and in this case it's going to be their best defense. Now, the rest of the United States and the world where we have trees and grass that are going to catch fire from this, we're going to have a problem. I don't know. I mean, the Bible does say that men in this time will gnash their teeth in pain and will cry for the rocks to fall and hide them from the face of the Almighty, and also that they look for caves to hide in. This does indicate very strongly that this age, this fourth age, will end in fire rather than flood by water. It will be a severe fire event. And the only thing I can think of, not nuclear war, is the sun itself, which is a major engine for energy in the solar system. The sun itself will contribute to this heating of the planet at that time. Now, there's other things that they've talked about, but I've talked about them on other shows, as far as the flooding that will occur in Arizona, in northern Arizona. The Hopi mesas, there's 3 of them above about 5,280 feet in the desert there, close to the Grand Canyon. They told us that they would go by canoe between the mesas before this is over. Now, either we have to have a sea level rise of over a mile to bring that prophecy to pass, or the Hopi landmass has to sink down when the Cascadia and San Andreas faults release and allow the coastline to fracture and drop down close to sea level. I think that's more likely than a sea level rise of a mile. There's also the problem which occurred back at the time of the flood, the biblical flood. And most people think, it rained 40 days and 40 nights and flooded the earth, and that was it. But if you read in the original Hebrew, there was about 100 days worth of high-temperature water being shot up through jets, which they call fountains of the deep in English, from all over the oceans, in the Indian Ocean and the Pacific. And these shot hot, superheated water up from the bottom of the seafloor. We now know that there is a layer of water down about 5 to 15 miles deep, depending on where you are on the planet. It's thinner, it's closer under oceans and deeper under mountains. And this is called the Moho discontinuity. And it's got salt water in it, about 3.3 times the density of water. And it's hot. And if you imagine the core of the planet expanding for whatever reason, it puts pressure on that layer, that shell of water under the surface of the earth. And it's like hypodermic syringes, it shoots it out. So we may have additional water, hot water, steamy water, and we may also have coastline subsidences or just dropping into the ocean because of this expansion and the earthquakes that are going to attend it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, all right.
Go ahead. Go. Keep going, Sam.
All right, well, and the other thing is, now the Hopi said that during all these changes, there will be civil war in the United States from various factions where the non-people, the non-Indian, will fight amongst each other. And while they're fighting, there will be a foreign invasion from the Middle East and from the Far East, Europe, not Europe, but Russia and China. And that the United States will, in essence, be invaded, and there will be a terrible destruction of land and property to the point where it's not even livable anymore. And survivors from that invasion will, American survivors, will gather together in little bands, and a number of them will reach the Hopi and the Navajo who live close to them, and they will form a new band of man, a new tribe of man, and move up into the Four Corners region, into the southern part of Colorado, and possibly part of it up into Utah. So that will occur after the flooding has occurred in northern Arizona. There are stages to these things. I'm just trying to remember what else they said. Let's see, there's that. Yeah, I think that's the major gist of what they told us at the time.
Okay, thank you, Stan. So with that, a single event from the sun that scorches 1/3 of the Earth, or continuous bombardment of multiple CMEs hitting the Earth over a period of time. Also, how long do you think the Hopi are expecting to stay covered from the sun in their kivas or underground houses?
Well, the Hopi did say 2 to 3 weeks. Obviously, it'll be until it's cool enough to get out. One of the things that they said that was interesting about the preparation they're making inside these kivas, these mud kivas, is in addition to water, they're putting clay pots filled with wood ash from pine-type trees and scrub oak that they've burned to a fine ash, and they put into that ash, they've put beans and corn. And the ash will keep the beans and corn preserved for up to 30 years. They've got some that old they've been keeping. I think it's from the tars that's in the ash that helps to keep bacteria out of it and preserve it. But they're going to just empty that out into a bowl and swish some water around it and wash the ash off and then cook it. But it's just one of the ways they're doing. So they've allowed for longer than 2 or 3 weeks, but I don't think they'll need it.
Okay. Also, I'm not sure if you're familiar with a researcher called Patrick Gerrell. He's got a mega sunspot cycle theory, which is obviously expecting the sun to expend a lot of energy over the next couple of years. But the different thing about Patrick is that he's actually got a code which he sees certain periods of time where the actual sun would unwind its, and some of the periods include April 19th, July 15th, and then October 11th of this year. So at least that provides some sort of timing. Have you done any research on Patrick, and what do you think of his theories?
Patrick is he's the Zeitgeist movement. Is that the one?
No, he's a 2012 guy.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that. Well, maybe not. Maybe he's on the Zeitgeist forum. I forget now. But yeah, I've heard brief comments on it. I've not studied his work in detail, but I agree that we're going to see a period of massive change in the sun itself right now. There are solar plumes, magnetic plumes, fountains occurring at the northern and southern poles of the sun now. Newly discovered type plumes, and more intense than would be expected. These things, I think, do indicate that the sun itself may be going to go through an expansion phase and a change of the nuclear chemistry that's has occurred as long as we've been able to observe it. So if he's saying that the cycles, whether they add together or however he does it, are coming up to a point of change, then I guess we're arriving at the same conclusion from different aspects.
Okay, thank you, Stan. Mulder, you have a question for Stan?
Yes. Since you believe in the expanded Earth model, may I ask what you think the mechanism is for this expansion and where you believe all of the additional matter comes from?
Well, actually, that's a good question, and I don't believe that we have any additional matter for the expansion. One of the problems that has been brought up by the antagonists to the hollow Earth or expanding Earth theory has been that, there's a certain gravitational constant for the planet, which means you have to have a certain density of mass, and they have made the assumption that if the Earth is solid, and if we have certain areas of seismic refractivity or reflectivity underneath the surface at different radii, that the Earth is composed of layers of different elements of different densities, like in the glass of water, where the sand is on the outside because it's lighter density than the iron filings on the inside. They have not allowed for voids. Now, in the new gravitational model that I'm putting into this next paper, what happens is that there's every planet, star, galaxy, etc., has this organizing, spinning field that spins so densely as it gets toward the center where all the atoms are compacting that it's organizing, that at the polar regions of the object, the field meets itself and bends inward and forms a negative, or like a concave surface to the inside of the planet, forming a void between that level and the next level down in the core, or levels beneath that. With the Earth, the mass is not going to change. It's only going to be the spacing of that void, the extent of that void, and the surface of the Earth will get skinnier. The mantle part will get skinnier, and I don't know whether that's going to be like 600 or 700, 800 miles. It gets down to 500. I haven't done those calculations yet, but I have done the calculations that show that we can have a massive void in between the outer core or the outer mantle of the planet and the inner core. If the inner core is made of cadmium and other heavy elements, then it would give us the same gravitational mass with a void. You don't have to have a continuous matter presence down there. It's these folded fields that spin inside the planet and form that void, and then form bend back on themselves and form the spinning sphere in the middle of the core, and eventually that has to invert. It has a long period inversion phase. And you have seen something like this in that glass of water. It's a great example. If you stir that glass of water and then let go of it and watch it slow down and slow down, the vortex, or the tornado-type shape in the middle of it, at the very tip at the bottom, you'll notice that tip, as it gets slower and slower, starts to raise up and down, up and down. It's going through changes in phase. And it's strong then weak, strong then weak. And in the case of planets, in our planet, I think it means is that the inner core, the really hot molten core, has spin to it and will change that spin to conserve momentum. It's like winding up a spring that has to unwind back the other way. And this may explain why we've been having, 10,000-year period changes to the magnetic field where it inverts, or north and south pole invert. It's the core down there doing it. I'm waving my hands a lot trying to explain this, and you can't see me, but that's why I'm doing animations in the paper I'm writing. If you look at the hollow Earth cross-section I've got in the images page, it's down about, 4 rows down the middle. You'll see the blue containment wave, the green surface of the Earth, and the red core inside that. And these are formed by these waves that fold back on themselves and form that void. Now, where were we going with that? I forgot. What was the original question?
I was just asking what the mechanism was for
okay, all right. Well, that's answered that. That's the best I can answer because I can't, show you right now other than what's on the images there. If you click on them, you'll get an expanded view on that website. You can see the holes that appear and the layers. And there can be more than one layer inside a planet or star or whatever. I'm really anxious to get this thing finished and released because I can address the problem of the supermassive black holes and the loss of data that they say, occurs under the existing relativistic theories. And I think it will make a lot of people happy. It'll let both sides of the argument of the TOE, the theory of everything, come together with a new, concise model that fits everything. I think Stephen Hawking will like it.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Stan. I'll be looking forward to reading your paper.
All right.
Thanks, Stan. I don't think Stephen will like it, by the way. Okay, the next question is from Lolly.
Stan, you've suggested in previous interviews that governments have been working to release